Welcome to another episode of Full Circle with me, Onyx. And a friend of mine requested that I make a video on Aries. And I am an Aries sun sign, and my moon is in Pisces. So, if you know anything about astrology, your sun, moon, and rising play a big factor in your life. But there are also other important factors, like where your ruling planet is placed. So Mars is the ruling planet for Aries. And it I think it's a good idea to pay more attention to planets than signs. Signs are very general. Um, but let's get into it. So there's a lot of things that people don't understand about Aries. And so when we think of the mythology, I believe Aries was grown or was birthed out of Zeus's thigh. So I believe Aries is a son of Zeus. Aries was also responsible for dismantling, taking out Olympus. So the Olympian gods, basically, and bringing in the age that we're in now. So Aries is pretty much the Roman god Mars. And so here we are, after the Roman Empire and all that stuff. And does that reflect in Aries? I believe so. Like, I think the movie 300 is an Aries movie, period. Um, the color red, lots of iron, war, men with abs. It's kind of like a lusty, sexy show, very masculine in nature. But it's also dramatic and it's very artsy, with the lighting and the cinematography and just the way it's kind of a story on a mythical level. Uh, there's elements of imagination, yet there's some history to it. So it definitely has a unique flavor, and that is very Aries. So Aries definitely are built for war, whether they realize it or not. And Aries is like always ready for battle. And it's just in their genetics, it's just in the way they're built. And so other people may assume they're not starting a fight, but the Aries will assume you are starting a fight. So, in a weird way, everything is a fight with an Aries. And you have to help them realize you're not fighting with them. So, if you take a direct approach towards an Aries, they're assuming you're attacking. If you take a very passive aggressive or very passive approach to an Aries, they assume you're being passive aggressive. And so so it takes a little time for them to decide in their mind that you don't mean war, that you don't mean fighting, that you don't mean competition, uh, aggression, that you're not there to steal, take, use, abuse, manipulate them, take advantage of them, because it's instinctual. It's like, why are you talking to me? What do you want? Is kind of like the thinking of an Aries. And so another thing is teamwork, having team spirit. Uh, so it's said that Aries preferred to hang out with the soldiers and be in the battle of war. Um, and like to be camping with them and hanging out with them. That's team spirit, you know? So I think a good way to connect with an Aries is make it a team experience, a team growing experience. It's a sharing, it's a of like minded, like interests. So a real way into the life of an Aries is to have similar interests. If you don't really have anything in common, you're probably not going to get along with an Aries. And then Aries will just be wondering why you're there. Wrong place, wrong time type situation. Uh, Another thing is Aries is a knight in shining armor. They have that side to them, and that's very Venus. Uh, their opposite, Libra, who's all about being in partnership and romance, and creating an experience. And Aries can be very romantic, very knightly, very chivalrous, like opening doors. There is a code of conduct. There is a way that Aries operates. Like, I'm an Aries, and there's certain rules that I do, you know? Like, if a female needs assistance lifting something, it's instinctual in my mind uh, to be like, oh my gosh, you shouldn't be doing that. Like, you should just ask or let me do that. Like, it's natural for me to want to open doors, escort someone to their car, things like that. I just say it's from a past life. I'm like I can't imagine, or sometimes paying the bill, or buying her a drink even if she's just a friend. It's like, you're a lady, you should be treated like a lady. You're a woman, you should be treated like a woman. And if you're not, then you might get the wrath of Aries, or you might get the rejection, you know. And so there is a code of conduct. That means respect. That means you value yourself, that you're a lord or a lady, kind of very classical, Victorian. It's there in Aries. And so if you can fan those flames, if you have those qualities about you, Aries will be more attracted to you. So I think it became popular with like grunge culture to like dress down, have long hair and not really fully comb it, wear a dirty plaid shirt, and then just call it grunge. And I think that's kind of when fashion also went grunge, just kind of like a cool New York jeans and t-shirt, James Dean, but now we're gonna like wrinkle it a little bit, make it look a little unkept, but you're gonna be some gorgeous model in some very overly casual clothes that, in my mind, come off looking cheap and dirty. So there's kind of been this con job of making average cool, making it glamorous, and it's not. Like, don't go to the grocery store unkept. It's not cool. Sloppy dress mannerisms, that's not cool. And that's the Libran side to Aries. And they may not be fully conscious of it, but I think a lot of people that are mad at an Aries are people who don't comb their hair, are people who don't sound lovely, who don't sound like a gentleman, who don't have a grasp of words, uh, people who are slovenly and sloppy and unkept. That's a turnoff for Aries. And you will not get that good side of Aries. Uh, and so I think a lot of people get casual in customer service, and they're rude to the cashier, they're rude to the person in service, they're commanding and demanding, and that's part of our culture that we now accept. But underneath an Aries, that's not acceptable. So you might get the wrath of an Aries, uh, or they're going to slowly over time start disrespecting you. And it's because you don't respect yourself. So this is like a huge key. The more you uh, value and respect yourself, the more your Aries is going to respect you. And Aries wants to brag about you. Aries wants to feel like they have someone special in their life, and they want to share that specialness with their friends and their family. They want to show you off as a trophy, as a knight would. And if you're not that, then Aries is gonna lose interest in you. So they want to see you as a high valued man or a high valued woman. Uh, they want you to have those Venus qualities of looking good, smelling good, and acting good, and walking good, and talking good. So if this isn't truly who you are and what you want, if you don't truly like have some of those Venus qualities, uh, then don't worry about it. Just move on to a different sign, you know? Because if it's going to be that much work, you're not being genuine. And when you're genuine, it actually helps filter out the right and the wrong people in your life. So, but that is a way to fix your relationship with your Aries. It is very visual, uh, and you know, and then some things you won't be able to fix. I mean, that's just life. But I would say if you have if you have 3 out of 4, you're fine. There's a few qualities that they'll put up with. Like, um, another thing about Aries is they're not that emotional. Like we think Aquarius is cold. You haven't hung out with Aries. Aries, uh, they care how you feel, but they don't care how you feel. Like, that's not going to be the center or the motive to try to get what you want from your Aries. By playing the victim or the martyr, by feeling bad, by playing weak, being the underdog. Because once again, it's respect. Uh, they want to see you as powerful. So they would love to worship you. But you got to give them a reason. And so everyone has different skills, and you don't have to be skilled at everything, but you got to have a skill that they can admire about you. So you might be really good with kids, or you might be really good in the kitchen, cooking. You might be a really good communicator. You might be really good at playing games, sports. Uh, Somewhere you need to achieve and be great at it. And that potential has to be in you. That spark has to exist in you, for an Aries to actually be interested in you. Kind of like a diamond in the rough. Like, and so, and because they want to show you off, because you need to be the prize. So this is very classical archetype pattern being played out with an Aries. This is archetypal male seeking archetypal female. And they're not the only zodiac that does that. Aquarius does that. If we get a very masculine Aquarian, he will be attracted to the very feminine uh, Pisces or other sign, who can bring it out. And so, and it can happen with other zodiac signs. That was just the one I was thinking about right now. Uh, so I need to take a little breath. Mm. So for Aries, they don't need a therapist. What they need, if there's anything psychological going on with them or you feel is psychological, they really just need a life coach. They need someone to cheerlead them on. They need someone to inspire them or help clarify their goals, their mission in life, and it's probably self-doubt, kind of self-esteem, but more along the lines of self-doubt. They're not for sure that they know that they have what it takes to go after that goal. Um, and so that's why a life coach would be way more effective for an Aries. You give them a goal, or any of the cardinal signs, you give them a goal, and then suddenly their mood improves, their attitude, and they shape up. So, yeah, direction. What direction is your Aries going? Because they can go the wrong direction sometimes. Uh, and you can inspire them. And so you can show up as the intelligent, beautiful princess or the handsome prince of, and you could be the one bestowing wisdom, intelligence, directions, helping navigate them through the fairy tale. With fire signs, there's a mythical quality going on. So, a little fantasy goes a long ways. And it's symbolic, where astrology is a symbolic system. Myth, metaphors, archetypes, the symbols of our subconscious, the images, the patterns. Uh, this is the meaning of our lives. And when you know the meaning or the why, you the how presents itself, then you can do it. And so I would say don't get too casual with an Aries. Uh, hold yourself with in high integrity. Be a high value woman or be a high value man, however you uh, gender identify. It doesn't matter. Be be worth seeing. Be great, or at least be on your way, because Aries is the cheerleader of the zodiac. So if they see you working towards it, they're they'll want to be with you. They'll be inspired. They'll be encouraged, and they would love to join you in that encouragement. So this is actually a sign that's really not going to get jealous of your win, but they're going to cheerlead along with you and share in your win. So this is truly team spirit, where brotherly love, you know. So mentor relationships work really well. And a mentor relationship could go romantic, but I wouldn't advise that. Uh, but you'll mean a lot more to your Aries if you have maybe a few mentoring tips along the way. They see that you're in alignment with what they want out of life. So really what gets Aries down is a lack of accomplishment. So your relationships may suffer, the friendships may suffer, their mood, all this, their personal world can turn into a wreck when they're not feeling a sense of accomplishment and achievement. So you can kind of like breadcrumb them back to health with minor uh, incentives to you can get them out of a deep depression. You can get them out of whatever state they're in. They're easy to transform uh, into a better version of themselves if you kind of breadcrumb that reward system. You know, I wouldn't say, yeah. So compliments, not compliments like, oh, you look great, not cheesy compliments like that, but noticing that they did a good job, noticing that it was a great idea, thank you for the insight, just low key, uh, showing appreciation and gratitude if they are of assistance to you. So that's kind of a big deal. Fire signs are positive charged energies. So if you add positive, which could be fun, excitement, compliments, appreciation, increase that value, then like any regular atypical man, then they're going to feel like their presence is needed and valued, and you'll get more. You will get more out of your Aries with words of encouragement, praise in the form of appreciation. So then they'll want to stick around. Then, so feeling value and respect, those are pretty big for an Aries. And yeah, so let's move on. Aries are actually very intuitive. What may throw them off is emotions. Water, the opposite of fire. Um, because a lot of Aries intuition comes from their gut. Their gut feeling is 99% right. And and so really they should just go with that gut, go with that assumption and not overanalyze it and screw themselves over, or not emotionalize it and screw themselves over. And same with communicating with an Aries. If you have a tendency to reiterate, saying one thing like a few different ways, uh, that might confuse them. It's very it's better to give very clear, direct commands. Don't and I would, depending upon your Aries, even though they're intuitive, they may have grown up in a very militant environment. I'm an Aries. I grew up in kind of a militant environment. My mother is an Aries, and it's kind of like her way or no way. Like, and so there wasn't a lot of room to do that intuition or to go beyond and improvise, innovate. The innovative, creative elements were not appreciated. uh, and so I had to kind of like turn that off and just go with kind of like the letter of what they said. So even though like my intuition knew a better, more innovative, quicker, faster, more cooler way to do things, I had to bring it in and conform to their vision, conform to their laws, obey their commands. And so in communication, when things go wrong is when someone just allows me to intuit or improvise, when it won't go the way they want it to go. So I just say, how do you want this? And then explain that a little more, like give me the details. And I call it simple speak. Just tell me in simple speak. Because a lot of people use cryptic or symbolic language, and there there's this assumption that I know what they're thinking, you know, and it's like, no, I don't live with you. I don't know you that well. Give me very, I want 5 shirts put on this rack. I want them all, perpendicular, or all parallel, like, and all sized, extra small to extra large. And I want the labels facing this way and the tags facing that way. And I want it done in 5 minutes. Can you do that? And the answer will be yes, because everything was crystal clear. There was no room for improvising, there was no room for doing it my creative way, and then they're satisfied. So if you might have to like really clarify on certain things how you want it to go, Otherwise, Aries is a lead or follow energy. So if you're a really good commander who gives really great commands, uh, then the Aries can follow through and feel that sense of reward, that sense of achievement and accomplishment, and then feel good about themselves. If you're vague, if you're sloppy, if you're not clear, then instinctually Aries goes, you're not the commander. Therefore, in a weird way, it's up to me to make this work out the best way possible. So usually Aries is always trying to make it work and please, make it work. Let's just succeed. Let's just win the war, win the battle, win the project. Let's, you know, so the more you give it correct parameters, like when the task needs to be done, what tools need to be used, how much you can or cannot spend, then things go better. Otherwise, they have to do it their way. And I feel like that's where problems could happen. Because, and so controlling people don't work in a weird way for Aries. And very, very liberal, go with the flow people don't work either. Uh, if Because Aries is also freedom, and they have a pioneering, exploratory spirit, which leads to innovation, doing things new in creative ways. So, being a fire sign, there's a lot of creativity there. Uh, and so, if you choke it all out, like my upbringing, then you get what's called, think of, oh, what do they call that? I want to say learned enabling. Uh, it's learned helplessness. You might get learned helplessness because they won't dare to take a step because they're going to get criticized or told it's wrong. So if you get too many no's in a situation, if there's not that room to develop into the craft or into the field of education, that experimental time, if the Aries doesn't get to play the fool and explore and test boundaries, you know, uh, it robs them of that spontaneous creativity and that spontaneous knowledge that happens through trial and error and figuring out their environment themselves, figuring out their bodies themselves. So, and it's almost like create a supportive environment and your Aries will thrive. And then let them get hurt. you know, there's that phase in child development where you just have to let them. You may see, oh, that's not going to work. They need to go experience themselves. Even their own intuition will tell them, don't go that way. And they'll go, let me take a risk. There's this gambling risk taking side to Aries. And they'll go, open that door they knew they shouldn't have opened. And then there's a consequence. So natural consequences work better for Aries than artificial ones, like the law and like rules and regulations. So they can get in trouble uh, in very rigid environments. So it's interesting because I just told you that structure of not leaving that creative, intuitive room leads to success, accomplishment, and award, and a sense of feeling good about themselves. True. But then when it's also so rigid, it also chokes it out. So it's a balance. Can we offer structure? And then is there a room for a little creative freedom? And depending upon your Aries, some will choose the creative and thrive that way in that independence, and others who maybe aren't ready for that independence, who still have some self-doubt, might go for the structure. So with that, they wouldn't be the leader, they would be the good soldier slash best loyal employee who shows up to work on time, who does exactly what you say, and you know but really they could evolve into the leader. So there's really a lot. This video is almost over, and I thought we would get a lot farther into it, but a general can overpower the king and become the new king. And so the king is Leo. So it when Aries stands in their power and develops over time, the amount of power and expertise they have in the field is like elite level. So much so that they can become the new king, you know, and start a whole new empire. So there is a threat Aries poses to other people because Aries can learn a trade and master it and then become so good at it they rule. And so a lot of people don't like Aries because of that ability. And Aries can learn quickly on whatever it is. You know, like literally, I like learned to do like trail running really fast, and I learned to do hiking really fast, and I learned to do swimming really fast. Like I learned these things, and they were challenging for me personally, like depending upon whatever the level is. Uh, but like my dates were like super surprised. They're like, I'm gonna take this person out on a hike, and it's gonna be really long and hard. And I'm an expert hiker, you know, I'm an expert like trail runner, and they won't keep up with me, and then I'm gonna look so good. And then there's Aries never really doing this, and they're adapting, and near the end, they're awesome. And then it kind of like then they get mad, you know. So that can happen. Whatever Aries sets their mind to, puts their decides that's what they're gonna do, they can quickly accelerate. But it has to be something from within. You know, they have to just want to do it. And so they can come across as challenging to other people whose egos depend upon the success or the having one up on someone, the power, the control. Aries can be a very threatening force to them because Aries will just do it for fun. Aries will just do it to challenge themselves. So we get self mastery with Aries. Aries is I am. So we also get individuation, which is what we want from psychology. And it's a very empowering place. So the Aries journey is a really powerful one because the other name for God is I am. So Aries can go all the way to self realization with themselves, depending upon how they work with that energy.